Welcome to the Next Level Occupational Therapy YouTube channel. My name is Kara Welke, occupational therapist and creator of the Next Level Occupational Therapy platform. The goal of this YouTube channel is to encourage, inspire, and motivate occupational therapy professionals to level up in their current career, whether that be to start a new business, add a side job, and or to figure out how to be more satisfied in their current career. Enjoy the show. I would like to welcome Aaron Shaw to the Next Level Occupational Therapy podcast. Aaron is an occupational therapist, certified hand therapist, and certified strength and conditioning specialist with 24 years of clinical experience. He is a recognized expert in shoulder, arm, and hand rehabilitation with a passion for hands-on manual therapy, custom orthosis fabrication, and functional exercise performance. Aaron is an author and speaker with a passion for topics including functional biomechanics and strategies to bridge the gap between rehabilitation and personal training. In April of 2015, Aaron founded MoveMend, Seattle's only neighborhood-based clinic specializing in rehabilitation of the shoulder, arm, and hand, and post-injury personal training. Since opening the practice, it has grown to include physical therapy and massage, expanding the functional approach to rehabilitation to include the entire body. So welcome, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
So I would just love for you to start with telling us about your business, MoveMend. That sounds awesome.
I'm almost 5 years old now, from a business standpoint. Almost 5 years, probably about 6 years ago, I was working in a major trauma center. And again, I'm an OT, CHT, doing what most of us do in my specialty niche. And so seeing a lot of trauma cases. Throughout my entire career, I've always been the one that's been really interested in making splints, and I like the complicated cases and perhaps some of the gory cases when it's in the trauma setting. I was really happy with where I was, but I felt like I couldn't go any further in my career, and encapsulated in this major institution, and I thought that I could do something better. And so, being the kind of person that thinks big, I was actually kind of at a crossroads where either I was going to leave medicine altogether. As through my credentials, I'm also a strength coach. At the time, I was an elite level cyclist as well. And so I was kind of like thinking about going through the fitness realm exclusively. I was getting a little tired of begging for therapy visits for people who needed therapy. So I was like, well, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And so while at that crossroads, before I quit my career, which I had established, my wife suggested that I really think about it. And so I did, and actually had a deep conversation with one of my mentors, who was also on your show, actually, Joanne Keller.
Okay, awesome.
Who is a friend of mine, and had a little conversation in her backyard, and I basically said, I'm either done or I'm going to do it my way. And again, in the spirit of mentorship, as we all stand here on the shoulders of other people, I got more reinforcement. I said, okay, I'm going to do something my way. And so I started off with wanting to be, a practice that offered not only the rehabilitation, but also what do you do after rehab? And so many of my clients were saying, okay, I'm discharged, my broken wrist is healed, my motion's pretty good, but I want to go back to playing tennis, and I want to go back to doing push-ups and lifting weights and riding bikes. And, everybody in Seattle is an athlete in some sort of way, but that's not the model. That's not the medical model. You have to kind of go on to somebody else. And I had a really hard time knowing who do I refer to somebody who's, been mostly cleared, but they still have some residual discomfort. It's not an absolute you're healed and then you're perfect. And so I was thinking there has to be a way to bridge that gap, and I don't know who to refer out to. So I thought, well, I'm going to make it myself. It doesn't exist. So my first hire, which actually was before my clinic was even built out. So I rented a space, which sort of fell into my lap, and it was like half a block from my house. It was like, couldn't have been any better place to start. And I had this vision. I was like, it's going to be myself. I'd hire some sort of personal trainer, and then there'd be handoff of services back and forth. And the right person at the right time was an exercise physiologist. Actually lived in the building that I was renting space from. So it's
Awesome.
it was a ground level retail, then our condos upstairs. And literally my first interview was the two of us sitting on boxes in this, what used to be a coffee shop that was gutted out. I mean, it was an absolute mess. And all I could say was, just close your eyes and imagine what this is going to look like. And I explained, kind of where I'm at today. I explained this vision of, multiple services, very deep relationship building with our clients. I didn't want to use rehab aides or rehab techs or, nothing but hands-on, high-level care, communication between services. And thankfully, this first employee was game. Looking back, I don't know if she should have maybe said, "Are you crazy?" I don't know. I don't even, look around. This doesn't look like anything like it. So we started, and like all small businesses, it was arguably biting off more than I could chew, which is kind of the way I tend to jump in both feet and then figure out what else, how to develop and grow through the process. Yeah, day one opened up April 28th, 2015, on my birthday, so I knew I wouldn't forget the date.
Awesome.
And had one client that day, and that's where it all began. And so we stayed in the space. It was probably had 800 or 900 square feet of possible space. I got a little bit busier, very slowly, a little bit busier, seeing a few training clients I could hand off to my trainer, exercise physiologist. Hired a front desk person who literally fell into my lap, which led to another front desk person. Both of them actually went on to OT school, so they both graduated OT programs.
Awesome.
And then I recognized that I needed to have PT. And so, I had a good, name recognition and became a fixture in the community for upper extremity stuff. But then also people would say, my back's kind of sore. What do you recommend? You don't want me treating your back. You don't want me treating your knees or anything else. So I would refer to other PT clinics in the neighborhood. And so it was great because I never felt like I had competition. And I still don't feel like I ever have competition. I feel like, I do what I do and I refer out things that we don't provide. And so I never had a problem. And in fact, for the first there were several months where my number one referral source would be another physical therapy clinic. And so I like playing nice with the community, but I am a business person and an entrepreneur. So after sending out a lot of business, I said, you know what, maybe I need to that's the next step, is to bring somebody else, a PT, into the fold. So I did. And as time went on, in this last space, we had 2 personal trainers, myself and a part-time OT CHT, 2 physical therapists, of course, a front desk person, admin, and what used to be a space that absolutely terrified me with how big it was stepping over people and literally get to the point where I would want to do some documentation when I was done, and there was not a place for me to be. I couldn't put my computer on any surface. We could never treat more than 3 people at a time. And it was fun. It was a sense of like, oh, this is kind of cramped, but it's real neighborhoody. And everybody knew that we were just, we were as genuine as could be, because like, what you see is what you get. We're here to take care of you. Don't step on the guy doing a plank. And that was good, but obviously it was finite, and something thankfully had to change. And so this year in June, actually July 1st was our opening day in a new space. So over the course of 24 hours, 48 hours, closed 1 clinic, moved everything, opened up, and now we're in 2,800 square feet.
Oh, wow.
5 private treatment rooms, a big gym in the middle, which is literally the size of my old practice could actually just fit in there. The proper waiting room. It's like a grown-up physical therapy practice all of a sudden.
Awesome.
And so now we're, again, looking back, not even 5 years ago, where it was, the first month I probably saw, 15 clients. The second month, maybe 30 clients. And now we're seeing 650, 700 clients a month, 700 a month. So that's between OT, PT, personal training with a specialty in post-injury personal training, and massage. So we got a massage therapist in house now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's been a wild ride. Continues to be a wild ride, mostly because I'm driving it and I enjoy. Every time there's a milestone, I try to pause and say, "This is great. I have 10 people this week. I want 11." Or great, this is a full month. I want a little bit more. I want systems that really help people hand off. I want. Yeah, so I would say my challenge is probably I don't pause long enough sometimes to say, "Hey, this is pretty good. This is a good."
What can we? That's good though. That's what you should. Y'all should be dreaming bigger.
I dream big, and I think it's always just resigning myself to realize like I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So today is good, but I'm never going to be 100% satisfied because it can always get better. So that's the fun drive. Like pat on the back, great. What's next? Let's go.
Yep. And I think that's the attitude you need to be an entrepreneur. So
for sure,
let's dream bigger, and you're going to fail at some point, and you just got to keep pushing past it. So
I could write chapters on failure, but you have to. I mean, I think.
Yep.
I mean, I know this cliche. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. But
Right.
I think that most challenging part of becoming an entrepreneur is literally the becoming part, and it's a growing process. And I don't think it matters if you've had an MBA or a doctorate degree or 20 degrees or 20 years experience. It's hard, and you will make mistakes, and there's consequences for those. And so it's a school of hard knocks all along.
Yeah, for sure. So I think your whole setup is pretty awesome. Can you walk us through, like, if a client comes to you with, like, do you see post shoulder injuries, or what's your most common injury you like to treat? Your favorite injury, I should say.
My favorite injury right now is actually like working with rock climbers right now. My favorite clients are the athletic bunch that are middle-aged, possibly because I'm middle-aged, and want to be athletic, want to continue to be active, who have kind of the wear and tear of life. So it's tendinopathies, tennis elbow, wrist tendonitis. I see a lot of pulley injuries, hand injuries, even just some, I get pain in my elbow, but it's kind of in my shoulder and I push through it. And then, my wrist kind of clicks. And so and it's a little bit less at this point about, I fell down and I did have a distal radius fracture, which is pretty clear cut.
Right.
And I did that for years, and that's great. But since the setting that I'm in now that I've created is really more about the continuum of care. And so that is going to be the person who comes in where I can, maybe or maybe not need a splint, definitely need some education on some dosing of their exercises. A lot of my clients are a little overzealous, and they're at that point where aches and pains used to kind of just go away. And now when they're in their 40s and 50s, they don't just go away. And in fact, they become more problematic. And so I love working with them because I can wear my multiple hats of my upper extremity experience, but also as a strength coach, and to have personal training staff in the clinic can really kind of make sure that they are in the safest place possible to return to whatever the sport there is. And so it's fun to watch people throughout the continuum. And now we have people that they first came into the practice 3 years ago, and I can't even remember why they first came in as a patient, but now they're a training client. And it really speaks to us being able to continue to take care of these people. And some of these clients even have gym memberships elsewhere. They have memberships that, we're not a gym, to be clear. Like, we're not a 24-hour fitness. But if you want to increase performance and if you want to get stronger in whatever that means to you, there's no place safer than MoveMend.
Right.
We have, some of the most exciting things we've done is sit down with, you've got an OT, certified hand therapist, a physical therapist, my personal trainers, exercise physiologist, degree in exercise biology, and we all sit around and say, okay, we're going to send somebody to personal training who has low back pain. How do we modify a plank? Well, so we all talk about it. Okay, this is real. This is what people happen. Like, I can't do a plank because my back hurts. Well, if the PT is transitioning somebody to training because people still want to do some sort of exercise, how can you modify a plank? Well, the PTs are down on the floor with balls and props and high planks and low planks. And so we brainstorm this all the way through until we can kind of come to an agreement and say, okay, here's how we're going to modify a plank for people with back pain. Now the trainers have kind of a plan A and a plan B. And if they can't do a plan B, then we say, okay, guess what? You're not doing a plank. You're going to, do something else. But we have 175 exercises right now that have been vetted through some very challenging conversations. There's some pretty strong opinions on the do's and don'ts and what's safe. But it's great because it really empowers our training staff to help with that bridge from, transitioning somebody from being injured to want to be healthier.
Right.
And we have a communication system where if something doesn't feel well or somebody has a flare-up, we use an internal communication. So the PT may be notified or the OT may be notified. Somebody tried to do a push-up and their elbow started to hurt, so I stopped. Well, great. At least I get to know exactly what was happening versus, I went to Orange Theory, had a great workout and my arm hurt. And it's impossible for me to dissect out, like, what was it of that workout that did it? There's
Right.
just so many things. But for us, it's like you're always under a microscope. If something hurts, I don't want you to hurt, but we're going to know exactly what it is, and we'll be able to kind of like process it together, how to fix it. So
That's awesome. So I assume you take insurance. You're not cash based, right? So how do you guys manage the clients with being on insurance for therapy, moving on to personal training or wellness, or how do you manage all that?
Well, it's a conversation. So when people come in, some people come in for several different avenues for us at this point. So some people do come in just for training, but most people, they walk in and they kind of look around like, oh, this is it's not just sitting across from a therapist at a desk, and it's explaining the model to them. We have obviously our website and we have literature out and around. So a lot of people have done their homework. So most people have. Dr. Google has given them some insight as to what we're doing. But it's explained to them just that, here's your plan of care. I think that we're going to increase the load tolerance for your elbow. In Seattle, I actually treat people with tennis elbow who are actually tennis players, which is not always common, but it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So I say, okay, I'm going to help you increase the load tolerance for your elbow. I've also noticed that your shoulder's a little bit weak. So we need to think about how you're going to play over the next couple of weeks. And they look over and I say, yeah. And if you want to work on your leg speed while you're here, and eventually you're going to work on your core strength and your rotator cuff strength, all of these things that led to your elbow discomfort, explain the mechanics, we can do all that right here. And so for a lot of people, like, wow. So this is right here. Yeah. So you may see me, exclusively me, for a week or two, and then you can go to work with one of our personal trainers. And the first thing that the personal trainer does is a functional movement screen, which is just a way to kind of screen how people move. And so they'll have that information plus the information from me. And so I'm saying this to my client. I say, that's going to be probably going to be more fundamental fitness and health information that you've ever had in your life just from this interaction, because you're going to have people communicating with each other. And of course, you're all three of us, the OT, trainer, client, talking this through, and it sells itself at that point, And so we offer a discounted rate for people who are in therapy, who want to have one-to-one training sessions. And then once they graduate from therapy, then they can stick around and buy, 5 packs, 10 packs, 20 packs. We also actually have a membership model, which is really kind of where I want the practice to continue to develop, and have people come in who want something that's really comprehensive and not wait till don't wait till you get injured.
Mm-hmm.
We're musculoskeletal experts, even if you don't have a broken bone. And so we have memberships that are a couple of different tiers, but basically people can come in for 1 or 2 one-on-one training sessions per week, include one small group class per week. And our classes max out at 3 people. So it's kind of as close as you can get to it's barely a group class, I guess. And then once a quarter, the members earn either a free OT or PT session or a free massage. So they get this virtual token. And so we've had somebody that was a member, and so they've come in, they're doing training sessions with us for 3-4 months. They're taking a run down the street, roll their ankle. call up, oh, I hurt my ankle. What do I do? Well, you come in for a PT evaluation. I don't care what insurance you have. Keep your wallet in your bag. Like, you're a member. We're invested in your health. We've already been training you. We know how you move. We know where your imbalances are, and we're going to take care of you. And so that's kind of built into the whole service. Yeah. And so
That's awesome.
from all sorts of different angles.
Yeah, I'm just taking notes as we go, just because it's such a great concept and how it should be. I know my coach always says, why does OT and PT discharge people? We should never even discharge people. They should be constantly with us throughout the process. And you guys have this great system in place to make that happen. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of, I agree completely. Like, everybody needs OT and PT all the time. And it's just a matter of how much intensity that is.
Right.
So sometimes it's, you have to sit across from me because I have to make you a splint. And that's at its most intense. But, you're more than an elbow. You're more than a wrist. I have a certification that I had to be super nerdy about the extension mechanism of the finger to pass the test. But ultimately, you're attached to an arm, to a human being, and you have goals and families and roles that you partake in. And that's what I'm taking care of. And it has to be something in a lot of hospital settings and clinic settings in the medical model want to squeeze that down to get the range of motion full and then you're gone. The swelling goes down, then they're good. It's well, there's more to this person. They still can't go play tennis. They still can't pick up their kid more than a few times, but they can't go back to yoga. It's well, insurance doesn't care if you can do a down dog. Can you do your ADLs? Can you basically cook and clean and do, basic stuff? But if you're a person who identifies as, I go to yoga twice a week, don't tell me that I can't do that. And so I want to create a place that I tell people, until you come here and you go through a full yoga session, if that's your thing, without pain, then and only then can we talk about you graduating.
Right. And do you guys do yoga at your place?
No, we don't offer yoga specifically, but people doing down dogs. I see, I'm not a yoga person, but apparently I'm one of the few that aren't. But it's the same. It's from an upper extremity specialist. It's a lot of weight bearing and pivoting on arms and stuff. So it's pretty demanding. So
what do you do with your classes? Your 3 people minimum or maximum classes? Your group?
It is nothing like CrossFit. It would be. We have classes that are find your core, balance classes. And I can assure you from being on the receiving end of them, it's not as simple as standing on one leg. And so it's, moving medicine balls around. There's upper body focus classes, there's lower body focus classes. We have some agility classes, so leg speed stuff. We see a lot of pickleballers. That's the latest and greatest thing.
Right.
So
yep.
Pickleball, tennis, and a lot of these clients are, again, they're, 60s. Some are 20s. But a lot of them are, as we get middle age and these, my ankle flares up more than it used to, and I can't move my feet like I used to. And so, again, some of their entry may be the aches and pains that they found us. But once they realize we can fix the aches and pains, but we can also really give you some resiliency that you haven't probably had in years. You've been, gradually losing that.
Yeah.
There's no safer place to do it, and in a measured sort of way, in a safe sort of way. So
awesome. I've talked to a lot of therapists who have a tough time with when do I stop insurance billing to move to a private pay type situation. They really struggle with that.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel with that?
Well, I think it's an open conversation, and I feel if I can't, whether or not you have the coverage, so some people come in and they feel they have the Cadillac insurance plan and I have 60 visits or whatever it is. And to me, that's irrelevant. And it's irrelevant from both sides. If you have no insurance and you're paying for therapy for cash, which we have some people that do that, or you have unlimited, I'm going to provide a treatment plan for you that is independent of that. And so again, if there's no hard line, if the last little bit of your injury is preventing you from doing, really ballistic, hard, really challenging exercises, you need to kind of go see a trainer specifically for that. And then maybe I can step back and say, go ahead and do the training. Can you tolerate that? But I don't need to see you once a week for that either. So a lot of the phase out is, it's a slow breakup. Sometimes it's saying, once you come back in 3 weeks, once you come back in 4 weeks, go back to your class or have a couple one-on-one sessions here. And when you come back, if there's an ache or pain in there, I need like specific details. What position, how much weight, how much, 30 minutes into the class, or, and of course at home, if they feel fine normally, but their elbow gets sore after they cleaned out the garage for 2 hours. I'm like, well, okay, that's kind of a unique situation. I don't know if I'll hang on to you for another extended period of time for therapy. And that's where education comes in. So it's, exercise dosing and symptom diaries and things like that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. The other thing I picked up on you talking about is deep relationships, high level of care. So I was actually talking to an occupational therapist this morning on relationships, and how she was telling me how some training she's gone to is like, you can't have a relationship with your client. I mean, it's clear and cut. You don't, you just keep it very minimalistic. And she's like, I treat my clients like family when they walk through the door, and it's really important, the relationship thing with it. So tell me about like what you about that deep relationship that you talked about.
Yeah. I think, when I first started the practice, and just kind of rewind again a little bit, teetering on leaving therapy altogether. And I was really trying to figure out, what is it that I really want to create? And it was actually trying to reflect on my experiences that I've had before when I was a competitive athlete. And I was on this bike race team. I had a coach and I had a support system on the team. My wife was my support system. My friends were my support system. And that emotional feeling of like, through whatever highs and lows, and I know this is, racing a bike isn't like a metaphor for life in any sort of way, but there is, there's highs and lows, and effort, and it's time, and it's demanding, and all these things. But I always felt like I had like this really intimate relationship of people that supported me. And the business name that I first came up with was the athlete experience. And so, and for me, that's what I get to experience. And if you look at a pro athlete that does things on the field, you may not, we do, if you really think about it, it's like they have an army of support system behind them. And so they can be their best in whatever they choose to do. And so it's important to me when people come in to MoveMend that, every single person that walks in, every time it's, you want a cup of coffee, you want a cup of tea. Of course, it takes 1 or 2 sessions before we know that you like 1 cream and only half the sugar on your coffee. And I am an advocate of building long-term relationships with people. And it goes beyond, it's not a matter of I want to see you, I want to treat you forever, but I want you to realize that I'm invested in you. And that's the person that's sitting across from me and each one of my staff, but also collectively. And so we are here for you. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to walk across clinic to find it. And if neither one of us know the answer, we're going to pick up the phone and send you to somebody. So, we don't do pelvic floor therapy, but I make calls out to people and like, I'll find somebody for you. Like I will help you do that. And simply it's the right thing to do, but also from a selfish business model, people actually appreciate you putting effort into like, that's not going to, immediately help my bank account that I'm sending you down the street, but that's not what it's about. And I think that, I don't know if this is good karma, but you put it out there, you do the right thing, and
exactly. Yeah. Awesome. You said 6 years ago is when you were working at the hospital. Is that the first time you ever thought about starting your private practice, or did you think about it a long time ago?
I've been thinking, turns out I'm not a great employee. I have always had an independent mindset, I think. And I think that even, specializing in hand therapy kind of put me in a position a lot of times that I could kind of make my own decisions. Because not too many people understood this thing that I was doing. Before I moved, I'm in Seattle now. Before I moved to Seattle, I was in San Diego. And for a period of time, I worked for myself as a contract hand therapist. The opportunity was there. A lot of PT clinics didn't really want to, like, they weren't sure if they could hire a hand therapist, but they liked to be able to say they had a hand therapist. And so I dipped my toe in the water there a little bit, and it was good. It was interesting. I mean, looking back, man, what I know now, wish I knew then. But I think that was my first experience with it. But for me, I felt like I couldn't really scale that.
Right.
And so I think that it's great. It was a great experience, and for some people, that may be like the perfect place just to kind of get locked in. I want to pick my schedule, you know, be an entrepreneur, work for myself. But to me, I mean, I get more joy out of me. I'm talking to you right now, and my clinic is open right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are people that are being taken care of under this idea, this brand that I thought of years ago. And to me, like, that is super exciting to me.
Yep.
And so, one of the challenges that I've had is actually people they want to come and see Aaron. You know, oh, my friend's seen this, Dr. So-and-so said to see Aaron, or Aaron only. And that's flattering for about the first 6 months. And then it's like, oh man, like, I can't do this. You know, I can't, and especially now, as you can imagine, I have 10 employees now. So it's scaled. And if I'm sitting there working with one person, in my mind, the business is on pause, and I want to be continually growing.
Right.
So one of the most flattering moments I've had in my practice was before we moved into the space. Somebody was checking out, so I, was being seen by PT. And they were checking out, and I said, "Oh, hey, how's your session?" Like, "Oh, good. How long have you worked here?" Like, that is awesome. Like, you don't know who I am. That was the best thing anybody could have said, because you're not here because of me. You're here. I don't even, like, how did you get here? That's great. And so I want my passion is making all of my staff rock stars. And if you never know who Aaron Shaw is, that is fine. There's a reason why I didn't call it Aaron Shaw's Hand Therapy Clinic or Aaron.
Right.
It's an independent thing. I want it to be created with the juices of everybody. And so that's what really excites me now.
So did you ever have trouble with giving that up, though, with giving up being the implementer and doing the sessions and working one-on-one with the clients?
Well, I still do. So
well, I mean, I know you still do, but like, I have problems with, because I really love that and I love being the one seeing the clients, and I have a problem with having someone else see the clients because I like doing that.
I think it's a matter of a few things. One is trust.
Yeah.
I mean, I work with a hand therapist now that I trust to see any case that I would see, for sure. And of course, PTs see things I have PTs that have treated me, treated my wife, treated my best friends. And so I have complete faith in everybody around me. And at the same time, I'm 24 years into practice now. And so I've seen a whole lot of, it hurts here, I need a thumb spica splint. I mean, I gave my CMC arthritis talk today for the 50,000th time probably. And now I draw it out. I draw out the anatomy, even though I've got, netter and I've got skeleton. And I'm like, oh, let me just come draw this out for you. And they're like, oh, that's not the first time you've drawn the skeleton of the thumb. I'm like, no, I'm not an artist, but this I got. So I'm at the point in my career where I really get, like I said, I get more joy out of mentoring therapists who want to make changes, seeing younger therapists develop, helping, seeing that client have an awesome experience, but I'm watching it from across the room. Like, that interaction means the world to me more than somebody who says, oh, now I understand CMC arthritis. Like,
Right.
I've got a lot of that, and I would never change that, but I like this other fuel tank is really fun to kind of, I have students that I've worked with that are now OT, CHTs managing clinics. I'm like, that is awesome. Like, that's scale, versus like when I'm across the person one-to-one, it's like, all I can do is this one thing.
Right.
But now I feel like, oh, I get this whole other, living thing that I'm attached to, and people may not know my name, which is great, but it's like, I'm growing that. And that's
right.
That's pretty special.
Yeah. And I have another friend that she has grown her big practice too, and she's putting long hours and so forth. I'm like, you need to hire someone. But yeah, she's having that trouble of making that move as well. And with me, I'm a mobile practice. So
It's a different, it's a different.
so then they're on their own and you don't really know what they're doing there. And so you do have to have that trust and that training and systems in place and so forth. So
It's learning how to, I think, learning how to delegate, learning, really control, really realizing what you're good at and what drives you. And then, it's like an onion. And there's layers that are like, well, I'm okay at this. Well, I'm not that good at it, but if I take a long time, I can get better at it. And to me, it's, I have a bookkeeper, I have a tax person, I have a, director of operations for my clinic. I got, front desk people, like all these things, like I can kind of sort of do all of these things, but I can't. So I have to say, I trust you to do these things. And part of the learning process is, learning how to manage people, learning how to hire people, learning when it's time to let somebody go where it's not a good fit. But that's the journey. And there's definitely there's some milestones to go from, I want to work for myself, and me standing here now talking to you. Like there's some things that happen between those two steps.
Well, and I think too, to be honest, and this probably is going to sound bad to people listening, but I've just seen so many not so good therapists out there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the OT world, I've seen so much UBE, exercise, and not functional things that's really kind of, and I'm completely opposite. So it's like, trying to find that perfect person would maybe be a challenge, but I mean, I know it could happen, but I don't know.
It's hard for sure. So like the OT that I have working for me now, I've known for years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, again, it helps when you do know somebody for a long time, but when you're hiring people, no matter how much, background checking and stuff, there's a little bit of blind faith and like, okay, it seems okay. But that's part of the deal.
Yeah. I actually reached out to someone this week that I know, because I do need to make the step and just hire someone. I mean, I have independent contractors that I know and trust and work with, but I actually need an employee. So I did reach out to someone I know that I think would be good, just to kind of get the feelers out there. But yeah, making the move is the one thing. So,
well, like all things, like starting off as an entrepreneur, I think that the hardest thing is literally starting.
Yeah.
To realize that there's no such thing as, oh, okay, I'm 100% ready to do X. I don't have time for 100% because you're never going to get there. And
yeah. Oh yeah, I kick myself all the time because my practice, I've been telling my husband for years, this is what needs to happen. This would be great practice, but I never did it because I didn't know what to do. And it ended up kind of falling into my lap to get me started. But it's like, oh, I should have did that a long time ago. So yeah, that step of getting started. So we can get more and more therapists out there to see that they could do this instead of having to go work for someone else.
Yeah, I feel like I would love to stand in front of like an OT class or just class, or anybody who's in OT who's even like has a hint of thinking about it, and just shake everybody and say, OTs are the best position to be doing this. The benefit of having be able to go in several, pediatrics to hand therapy to ergonomics, functional status, like all of these things, OTs are in the perfect position to be doing it. And I don't think or it wasn't expressed to me that way, which was a very long time ago.
Right.
But it wasn't really even an option.
No. And it's still not. I mean, listeners, you can come after me, whatever, but it's still not. We're still literally teaching them how to go work for someone else, apply for jobs instead of training them to work from themselves from the start. And that's one reason why in the Visionary Summit, which you'll be a part of, is why I want it to be completely free for students, because I want students to see all of these awesome therapists, OTs and OTAs that are doing their own thing. So
yeah, I think that what's a little bit unnerving is, looking back, the way I would see business owners is like they must have, 3 arms and 2 heads or some sort of genetic thing that makes them so unique, the angels and snowflakes that they are. And now that I'm sitting at the table with other business owners, we all sit around and think, what the heck, how did we do this? Like, how do we, like, what was the secret? It's like, well, you put your head down and you just do it, and you're sort of falling forward and you just figure it out as you go, and you have a support system and you have mentors and relationships. But I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's hard work, but if you, just like anything you do that's hard work, if you are passionate about it, and my wife and I talk about this all the time. She's also an entrepreneur. It's like, we're working, I used to work for somebody and that was work.
Yep.
But now when you work for yourself, I feel like the stresses that we have are the ones that I choose, versus when you work for somebody else and they say, hey, you're going to be on this committee. It's like, I don't want to be.
Right.
I don't want to. Like, no, you just gotta. It's like, no, it's not the stress I want. Like, I want the challenges that I'm dealing with now, and you can only do that when you're calling the shots. So.
Yep. Exactly. And I'm a perfect example of putting so much time and energy and working for someone else only to just kind of have my spots filled and not even say goodbye. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, because I left teaching after I was going in my 8th year, and yeah, I mean, no goodbye, thank you, whatever, sayonara. So
See you later.
I'm like, really? Thank you. So yeah, awesome. Well, if you could, do you have some tips that you would share with us? I always ask people to share 5, if you have it, 5 tips for someone that is thinking about starting their own business or a side business or doing something else. What would your tips be?
The first tip would be to do some deep thought on what you really want to be doing. So I think that there's a basic base level, I think, of being able to start something. The question is, if you were doing that something, would you feel like you've done it? And I can think back to when I was working for myself, independent contractor. It's like, oh, I want to work for myself. And then a month later, I was working for myself. It's like, okay, was this it? I want something else. I'm working for myself, but this isn't quite it. So taking the time to really do some deep thought on that and to communicate your goals or your ideas to the people around you. And that would include not only family, because I think family and close friends are going to perhaps give you a whole lot of, hey, that's a good idea. If you have nothing but positive reinforcement, I would say you need to expand your group, because you really want people that are going to say, is that really how's this going to work? And you want somebody who's going to kind of hold you accountable and really, and sometimes in a great way, it's, when you talk things through and you get it out, you're verbalizing your idea and your goal and your vision. The more you talk about it, you say, wait a minute, let me work on this some more. Like, it's here somewhere. So if you can have people that are supportive, kind of guiding you and mentoring you, but can also give you some feedback that says, you need to go back and polish this up a little bit. So mentors are super valuable. There was this exercise that I did that I can't help but, it was in a book that I read. I think it was called Total Leadership. And the exercise was write your history, write a letter as if you were 15 years from now. So the first line of this letter is, 15 years ago, I decided to open up a practice and I named it MoveMend. And then, you're writing your future.
Right. Yeah.
And then, so it really makes you think, 15 years from now, what am I doing? And so it was one of the most challenging exercises I've ever done. And this is I think as I'm almost 5 years in now, I think the biggest challenges that we face as entrepreneurs is kind of this deep reflection on, what am I doing? Like, where am I going? And, I've proven that I can work hard and, build a little something, but every step of the way, it's like, where am I going with this? Because I'm not satisfied with just saying, okay, I've done it. So doing this exercise, you'll end up with a 2-page paper, but it's really going to question, okay, so what's going to be happening? And if you can share that with somebody, which I shared with one of my mentors, so we did this exercise together, it is pretty powerful.
I think that's awesome. And I might totally steal that and use it in my different programs with the people I'm currently coaching through building their business. So that is awesome. And they have accountability partners, so they could share it with them. And
that's perfect.
That's a great idea. Although I don't want to think about when I'm 15 years from now. That's
Well,
too
that's,
old.
well, you want to set yourself up because, I mean, you want to be able to look. I always think, oh, 15 years from now, I want to be able to look back and say, man, I did this, and I did this, as opposed to like, oh, those 3 years, like, what the heck was I doing? I could look back on
Right.
my career now, I was like, well, I could get some of those years back.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love it.
Reading, devouring content, podcasts. I mean, some off the top of my head, my favorite reads have been Atomic Habits.
I've been recommending that one lately. That's, yeah.
It's a life changer. Play Bigger, Lead Yourself First, a whole lot of marketing books. I mean, a lot of these are as they should be, beyond the scope of OT. So I think you realize that you're going to be, I mean, I've always got my OT hat on, but if you're going to work for yourself and you're going to be an entrepreneur, that's a second career.
Right.
So you need to be going on that track as much as you need to do improving your clinical skills. There's tons of, I mean, there's no excuse not to be devoured with content. There's so much great content right now.
Do you actually like just take the time to sit down and read it, or do you do a lot of audiobooks or listening, or?
I do both. I always have probably too many things. Like I've got a couple of half-read books and half-read audiobooks. Like, oh yeah, I haven't finished listening to this. So I do listen to audiobooks. So I think the Atomic Habits one, for example, is, I listen to that. And 9 times out of 10 with an audiobook, I think, oh, man, I got to get the books. I want to underline something right now.
Right.
But I have a mentor right now that we're reading Crucial Conversations together. And so I want the book so that we can sit down and compare notes. So I do a little bit of both audio and old school real books. I'm not sure what number goes on.
I just have one thought about, I think I've been writing them down, but I have a question on devouring content. So my problem is I have a hard time sitting still to read a book. So that's why I have to listen when I'm driving.
Sure.
Since I'm a remote practice or things like that. So those are awesome. I think they're on 3.
Okay, great. Have a mentor. I mean, I have, and I think you'll realize that most mentors have mentors.
Yeah, exactly.
You're never too big to, it's sort of like, I always think of CEOs, and they read a book a week, and so they devour content, and they may be top of the game. I've had 2 mentors. One is Joanne, who was on your show, and the other one is actually a mentor who was connected through a friend who he's a PhD in, he teaches business school. He's in a business school with a specialty on entrepreneurism, but he had no history of medical stuff.
Right.
So our relationship started as a friend, let's have a mentoring. So it's very, it was formal. We had, regular meetings every 3 or 4 weeks. And he asked some of the hardest questions because the idea of a typical business, you've been doing this for a long time. Well, you should probably raise your prices. Well, I can't. That's insurance. Well, don't you have a negotiated rate? You should negotiate higher. No, it doesn't work that way. And so, but it was great because it really, the sort of the Excel spreadsheet version of, is this business going to work and how is it going to work? That's where mentors come in handy. So
what do you say to people that say they can't afford a mentor or can't afford to hire a coach or things like that? And I know not all mentors are paid, but I know some people hire coaches and have paid mentorship and things like that.
I would say you can't afford not to. I mean, it is, and I say that as somebody who's invested money into mentors, and I think it's also, another analogy I think of is the expense of starting up a practice, starting up a business. You think I'm not going to spend, or I'm going to self-fund my business, or I'm going to save and then put a little bit more into it. And I was listening to a podcast, and it was this myth, and this guy said, out of the S&P 500, how many of those are debt free? How many of those multi-billion-dollar companies? It's 3. It's Facebook, Apple, and one other one that are debt free. Every other mega business has tons of debt, and so the fear, I can't do that. It's you're going to get stuck at a certain level. And so with the way I think of things and think of investing money, and so whether that's into the building that I'm in, or exercise equipment, or staff, I always think, if right now somebody came to you and said, I'm going to give you $500,000 right now, and you have to invest it in your business. can't get a fancy car or go on a vacation. Like, it has to be in your business. What would you invest it in? Like, whatever you start thinking in your head, like, well, the first thing I would do is I would hire a marketing team. And then I would say, okay, why would you hire a marketing team? Well, because it would get my word out and my message out. Then I would have more. Okay, so you start like saying like, okay, so with $500,000, would your business be successful, or whatever that, $250,000, whatever it is? With X amount of dollars, do you think your business would be successful? And most people would say, well, yeah, if I had that much money. Right. So you got to invest some money to make, and it sounds like,
exactly.
It doesn't happen for free. I mean, just like becoming an OT, like, I want to help people, I want to help people function better. Could I do that without an OT degree? Yeah. Can I do it better now because I've spent the money to become an OT? Well, certainly.
Right. Right.
I can't even tell you how much money I've spent on continuing education for hand therapy. Could I have kind of done hand therapy sort of? It's like, yeah, but I spent money in it and I regret not a penny. And I'm here today because I invested that.
Right.
And mentors are the same.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I mean, I'll fully admit that I was the one that when I first started was like, nope, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to figure it out. I don't have the money to spend. And I mean, that was such the wrong mindset, wrong thinking, and how once I actually decided to invest in myself, how it totally changed. I mean, it was crazy. So.
Yeah. And be frugal and thoughtful, obviously, with your finances, and maybe even starting with a little bit of shoestring mentality of almost like proof of concept. Right. And then when you start getting little nibbles on things, it's like, well, I got this like pain point, and if I just had the right staff person or the right system or the right marketing, like, then I would be able to do this. Okay, then invest in that. If I only knew how to make a splint, I would be a better hand therapist. Well, pay for a course on making splints, and then you're over the hump. But you got to do that sometimes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, how about, I lost track, but how about one more, since you have a whole bunch?
Set personal goals every day. There was, I think I got this from Chad Madden, who does PT marketing. And so I'm pretty sure, I'm sure he stole that from somebody, but the idea is on a Sunday, write down 3 goals for every single day of the week. One that's personal, one that's business, and one that's family. But knowing that, I mean, we're all pulled in a million different directions, but when you wake up in the morning and say, today my personal goal is, I'm going to exercise, and my business goal is I'm going to review my profit and loss for January, and my, family community goal is, it's Valentine's Day and I'm taking my wife out to dinner. So if you wake up in the morning, those are the 3 big things. If at the end of the day, I can at least tick those boxes, it's success. There's forward progress in something. Versus, as I'm sure we've all felt, where some days I'm, getting, sucked into some emails and this stuff and like all this stuff. And I think I've been busy all day, but I feel like I have nothing to show for it.
Right. Yeah.
So infuriating. And having the discipline, and again, this is where maybe mentorship kind of comes in. It's like, I want to hold people accountable. Like, what are your 3 things? Did you accomplish them?
Yeah.
And it takes a little practice, but at least taking the time to think through what every day is going to be like, generally, you'll actually be making steps ahead.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, all fabulous tips and things that everyone needs. And I need to get better about the individual, or like the daily type goals for sure. I have my long-term goals, but yeah, like the more daily type things are huge. So
what they're good at, though. I mean, I think that, if we, practice what we preach, you want to be able to tie your shoe. You want to be able to, communicate well. You can have these long goals, but you reverse engineer them until today. Like, what should I be doing right now? Right. And so today you can do a little something if your goal is to open a practice. I feel like if 20 years ago, somebody said, oh, you're going to have a, this practice that's, with all these therapists, and I'd be like, oh man, there's no way. But really, if I had set that goal, yeah, of course. I mean, my life sort of like mostly by happenstance got me to a certain point. But right. Any OT could do the same thing. And it starts with today I wake up, today's goal is I'm going to listen to a podcast for 30 minutes on my way to work.
Right.
It's something. It's
Yep.
something.
And as with our clients, measurable goals, because I have, again, been working with other people starting their business and they have their goals. And I'm like, how are you going to measure that? That's way too broad. Or, I mean, what are you even talking about? So, we still need to have goals that we can measure ourselves.
Yeah. A goal of being better at X.
Yep.
We all want to be better at X, but it's really hard to say whether you did that or not. So.
Yep. Awesome. Well, this has been fabulous. Oh goodness, I see I've taken like a lot of your time. Sorry.
Oh.
But yeah, thank you so very much. And I look forward to hearing more when you present through our Visionary Summit.
Look forward to it.
I really appreciate it. So, and I will, for people listening, I will post Aaron's information in the comment section. So his like website and any other information, Aaron, you want us to share. So
yeah, if you have any questions about, I'm happy to brainstorm sort of mentorship ideas too. You can email info@movemend.info, which is
awesome.
a main business address for me. And so the closing statement is any OT can do what I'm doing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you. And everyone, yes, you need to just start. I appreciate it.
All right. Nice talking to you.
Yep. You have a great day.
You too.
Thank you for watching today's show, which is sponsored by our Therapy Business Builder program, where we help healthcare professionals start the business of their dreams from the ground up. Also, be sure to join our free Next Level Occupational Therapy Facebook group. And for even more support, guidance, and training, check out our Next Level Visionary membership group. Time to level up, occupational therapy professionals.